And we move into Dave Purak. Careful your feet. Dave Purak is a curatorial, a conservative tech at the museum. So his work is a lot about experiencing 16th and 17th century art and the processes that it takes to conserve them, upkeep them. So a lot of his work is about the process of gold leafing and mold making and taking old master techniques and bringing it into the contemporary art and mixing it with contemporary materials like epoxy, resins, molds, and whatever else, and then taking something like a historic painting by Bruegel of the Tower of Babel and then pushing that so far that it stops becoming about that and it becomes about the process of all those stuff that goes into it. We move into James Evans, who makes large-scale sculptures about small working things. So this is the inner workings of the gears of a small fishing reel, blown up to sculptural proportions, and how that we look at things or miss all the little working parts of things, and if you bring them up and focus on them, that it becomes sculptural, it becomes something that's bigger than the sum of its parts, for lack of a better word. Here will be a video. The video is getting installed this afternoon, and it's all the artists working in their studio. So it's mostly hands working in their studio. It's 15 minutes long. It'll be a scrim, so you'll see it from both sides. So you'll see a little bit as you walk through here and a little bit as you come through the other side. Daniel Perales, another person that's inspired by a 17th century artist called Carlo Dolce, the Blue Madonna, that some of you might be familiar with at the museum. It's one of my things that I think is probably top 3 people's favorite painting in the museum. If you ask them what their favorite painting is, Blue Madonna is on the top of the list. So he took that idea and took this blue cloth, which is actually a blue dress from Goodwill, and gave it to local women to pose their thing. And it's about putting somebody into that sort of painting, and then about the process of what it takes to take that shot and how many takes, and the subtlety of just the move of a hand is the whole thing of a photograph. You can take 50 photographs with anybody's camera, but a photographer has to choose that one. Just the increments of the moving of a hand in a dark light in that chiaroscuro is the whole thing. I mean, if you look at the Carlo Dolce, just the little delicate bit of her chin coming out of the dark. And then the same thing here, just that light on the hand and how it changes when you turn it in space. That's the art. That's where it lives, in that infinitesimal little spot right there. We'll move around the corner to something more about, it's about living in spaces in Florida and or wherever, but it's also about not just about it being sort of a landscape or a cityscape, but it's about the application of paint and the repetitive action of putting on these layers of paint and mixing the colors together. So again, it speaks directly to the process theme of the show, and like how all that stuff gets applied and just layers and layers of color and paint, and then you end up with this immensely thick, beautiful surface with all this intense, immense color. So I think that that's really a nice play from, you go from these photographs and these really soft things to something that's a little bit more aggressive in color and in style, but ends up being just as beautiful as an end result. We move into Brian Haverlock, whose work really is about deconstructing magazines and pictures and whatever else, putting them in together in a new way, and then making sketches from those, and then making drawings and more intense focused drawings from those. So it really goes from one step, it's deconstructing a thing, and then rebuilding something completely new out of it. So it's about creating your own narrative out of the detritus of, everyday American life. We move into Brandon Maupin. Brandon Maupin is one of our members that has left, and he sent this in a crate. Go ahead. Oh, you're right here, sorry. The right is a sketch. He usually carries them around with him and sketches these out, and then reverses the process on the back side of a piece of glass. So the last mark that was made on the drawing is the first mark that's made on the painting on the reverse of the glass. It's a little dark right now, but James is going to light it right behind you. So these are, again, the Brian Haverlock drawings from the collages. Move into Tim Yeager, our illustrious leader and president of SRQ. who is another person a lot like Dave's and whatever else that has found a vehicle like the chickens. The paintings aren't really about the chickens to me. It's about finding a vehicle that frees you to now explore the process of painting. You're not worried about what the subject matter is. It's a chicken. You know, it's going to be a chicken when it's done, but then it frees you to just apply paint and have fun with color and stroke and technique and all these things. And each one of those corresponds to the pants that he uses when he wears them, because he uses those to clean his brushes and his palettes and whatever else. So you see the drawing, the painting, and then the mess that we make in our studios, which is the fun part of this. And then we come to Joseph Arnegger. And these works are really about, they're about memory, the degradation of memory, and about billboards, and how our memory and billboards are very similar, that you don't remember things in a video, you remember sort of a snapshot in time, and it degrades in the longer you have that memory. So when you were 8, I remember going to a fair and this kind of thing and whatever else, and it degrades down to just maybe a color or a thing or a Ferris wheel or a sound. And the same thing with billboards. They advertise these things. This is from a movie in the 1930s, and there was a billboard on the side of a building, and then all the things that happened in history over the time. The buildings changed, posters were put over it and scraped off, other things were added like graffiti and whatever else, but there's still the memory of that original thing, but then how time degrades it and adds to it, and that beauty that gets missed in the sort of weathering of things. And that's sort of what my art is about. And this one is inspired by the Fragonard painting, the swing, and taking that and boiling it down to the same sort of thing, like a museum billboard advertisement, and then just boiling it down to the shape and form and whatever else, and doing the entire step of the process. So every step of my process is numbered. So from the first building of the materials all the way down to the signing of the painting, and they're all numbered on the painting. And then if you look, all the support materials are here, the original drawing, the sketches, the little paintings that I do to get to that final work.
This is a good time to tell me about why it's called Process and kind of the overall theme.
Well, the overall theme I really think is about, not to fancy it up, but to demystify the process of art. I think that the public sort of sees art as this sort of magic or untouchable thing, because we see that in the paper and whatever else, it's a Van Gogh that goes for $93 million, and it's in a museum, and you can't touch it, and you can't be around it, and these people are usually dead. And so it's like we're really removed from art, and we want to sort of bring it in a little bit closer and demystify that thing, that there's real people making this stuff in their living rooms or in their garages or in their thing. And how do you get from an idea in your head or just passing by a billboard to a thing that's hanging in a museum? What is the process that goes about from inspiration to completion is our byline. So we want to give you all those steps. We want to give you all the stages that an artist goes through, whether it be his thought process or his hand process or the materials you use, the different techniques, historical or otherwise, the experimentation, the collaboration that a group like this offers for people to work together and put on shows like this, and then how do you relate that to the public, especially in a children's science museum, and really talk about some of the fun parts of that, like color mixing and gold leafing and how these things are built and how art is perceived by the public, knowledgeable about art or otherwise. You know, the layperson would come in and have a very different reaction than somebody that's a museum savvy person. So I think that that's really what the process title in capital letters is about.
Does that bring us to the end?
This is the finale, yes. So that you get to see the backside of the video is really the kind of the close.